Today we're looking at the Beretta 92X versus the M9a3. The 92X Performance comes in this huge hard case with these, things, and then a combination lock. It's a very nicely well-made case. However, it's huge, and because of that, I don't use it. I don't really like it. The M9a3 comes in the ammo can case. When you undo the latch on the side, you have foam on the top, and then you have foam cutouts for the gun, as well as 2 backup magazines, which it comes with. So you get 3 mags total with this. With the 92X Performance, you only get 2 mags. And now let's talk about differences in those mags. Here is the M9a3, here's the 92X Performance. It's a 15 rounder on the 92X Performance and a 17 rounder on the M9a3. The M9a3 mag is PVD coated and has this line here to keep the follower with less points of contact so that this mag is more sand resistant. This is just more of a standard design blued finish. The 15 round 92X mag does have witness holes for every round, which is nice. And you can see here the M9a3 mag only has it like every 3 rounds or something like that, 2 or 3. So yeah, I don't like the 92X mags because that slanted floor plate, I just think it looks funny. I like that more even floor plate on the M9a3 mags, and because of that, you'll see I got some extra M9a3 mags, and I just use M9a3 mags in my 92X Performance. The mags are compatible both ways, both using just the standard 92 series mag. So from there, let's talk about mag wells and the grip on these guns. The grips on this gun, you'll see, actually don't go all the way down to the bottom of the frame like they do on the M9, and I think that's because they wanted to make this as heavy as possible. You have cut out here on the grips for your safety lever, so these mags are proprietary to this gun only. I believe these grips will fit 92X grips and stuff like that as well. Both guns come with a wraparound grip from Hogue, which I can quickly show you. That includes a hump that would go over the back, giving it more of that traditional M9 Beretta 92 grip feel. Okay. Both of the grips aren't very textured. The M9 grips do provide a little more traction than the 92X mags, but if you like a lot of grip, you'd probably want to buy some lock grips for either one of these pistols anyway. So let's look at the mag wells. The M9a3 mag well is slightly flared, which you can see there, but not to the same level of the 92X Performance. So that is something to keep in mind. Your reloads will probably be a little bit easier on your 92X than on your M9a3. Doing that on the camera finder is a little awkward. But yeah, they both work just fine. We do have a Lanyard Loop on the M9a3 because it's more of a military gun, whereas we just have the mainspring housing plug standard on the 92X Performance. Magazine release, it's extended on both of them. They're like identical, so no differences there. Safety mechanisms, this has a frame mounted safety very much like a 1911. It will stop the slide from being racked, but the nice thing, unlike a 1911, with the hammer down you can still activate the safety and it'll just lock the trigger out. So frame mounted on that, like I said, very 1911-ish. This has a slide mounted system, and this specific model is what I'd recommend getting, which is actually the Type G. So when you flip that down, it will decock and then just pop back up. So no safety on this, only decocking to double action. Something that should be noted, people seem to get all worked up about, oh, what if I go to rack the slide and I pull that down? Well, watch, if I pull that down, it just pops back up. it's damn near impossible on a Type G decock only M9a3 to decock your gun by cycling the slide. So that's something people get all worked up about. It's not a big deal if you have the Type G. If you have the Type F, it is possible. So just get the Type G or convert your Type F to that. Now let's look at the slide releases. This one has a flat profile with the slide lock back. It is very easy to activate. This one has a slanted profile and you get locked out by the safety. So it's very difficult to do it. The best way to load this using that is probably going to be like that. Old Larry Vickers 1911 style. So if that's an important control for you, you'd probably either want to try to change that out to one that's flat across the top. That way you could get just a little more leverage, or just go with this system. However, without having any frame mounted safety or anything, there's no concern about activating anything by power racking. Something really nice about the M92, the 92X, sorry, that the M9a3 doesn't have is these awesome serrations. They honestly, to me, they don't even look that aggressive, but they grip very well, both front and rear. However, I do find that this safety mechanism does make it a little jammed up back here trying to get onto the serrations, especially if you're going over the top. So from a slide closed, I actually like to rack up there right on those serrations, and it works very good. The M9a3 doesn't have any front serrations, so it can be slick to grab there, but you do have this scallop on the slide that you can rack from, and because this barrel is threaded, it's a little bit longer. So coming up here, you still have pretty good clearance from the end of the muzzle. The serrations on the back, they work okay. They're still not as aggressive as the 92X performance ones. However, you can just grab over by the safety, and that's a lot of material sticking off, which will make it very easy for you to rack. And also from over the top, once again, those safety levers just give a lot of leverage. Something that should be noted, if you grip it aggressively, some people have complained about it, you know, kind of digging in and being a little bit uncomfortable after multiple manipulations. So there's that. Let's talk about the triggers. Both pistols are capable of double action. Double action, I don't know what they're rated for, but to me, just a rough guess, this feels like about a 4-pound, and this feels like 5.5 to 6. Probably pretty close to equal in smoothness. Yeah, honestly, I would say they're equal in smoothness. This is just heavier. So this does definitely have a better double action trigger. Now, if we go into single action, you have take up to the wall, because these are double to singles, very common. Then at the wall, you have one slight bit of hiccup if you pull it gently, which I'm having a hard time even feeling right now. There was some hiccup. I don't know if you saw it. Let's try it one more time. So take it to wall. Maybe this trigger is getting a little better. Anyway, there is a little bit of grit in there for me. On this copy of the M9a3, however, I pull up to the wall, and the brake is a little more harsh, probably about 4.5 pounds, where the other one's like 3.5. But this one actually kind of has, for me, the cleaner brake. However, this one's lighter. So honestly, the trigger mechanisms overall, this is barely better. And I would say only really better because of the pull weights of the trigger itself. You can get very good accuracy out of the M9a3 because this trigger really is amazing. So when you're spending, like, you know, depending on times, damn near, if not over $1,000 on the M9a3, Don't be worried about the trigger. It's phenomenal. Now, of course, you're paying a lot of money for this, and it's kind of a competition gun, so you would expect a good trigger, and it absolutely delivers. However, honestly, I think the single action could be cleaner. Let's see. So, stage to wall. See, there was the grit and break. So if you're applying pressure slowly and softly, you will notice the grit. There I tripped past it. Maybe it's starting to wear out that grit a little bit, but it definitely has been there. Takedown lever. This has the competition style. It extends off of the frame, gives you a nice gas pedal up there. A few people don't like that. I love it, but it's not there on the M9. It just has the traditional one. Because this is extended off of the frame, if it makes a difference to you, this is easier to disassemble, whereas the M9, you kind of got to get in there with the tip of your finger. Really not a big deal either way to most people. M9a3 does have a squared trigger guard, no texture on the front, 92x performance, rounded trigger guard. I think this is thicker here, although this is steel, so it'd still be stronger. But the edge on this, the Lanyard Tacticals do have this rounded off. And the first time I picked this gun up, I was kind of like, huh, that could be a little bit smoother around that middle finger. With the 92X, I never really noticed it. Something about it, it just seems like a little more gentle, so to speak. However, feeling it, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily feel rounded off. Something about it just doesn't seem as aggressive to me as a trigger guard of this on the middle finger. Both pistols have 3-slot Picatinny Rails. Not much to say there. I honestly didn't even look in the 92X performance thing, but this, it had a note like, hey, don't hang a flashlight heavier than X amount of weight on the end, or it could cause issues. I would guess that would go for both, but I can't exactly tell you. The 92X performance, of course, has a Brigadier slide. That means it's thicker in profile and has this kind of swoop here. A lot of people like the aesthetics of that. M9a3 is a standard Type 92 slide, standard thickness. So this is going to significantly cut back your holster compatibility. And by the way, this should fit on most military surplus like Safariland Beretta holsters. The only thing you got to maybe watch out for is the trigger guard cut. I did buy a surplus M9 Safariland holster, and this pistol does fit in there just fine. Barrels, this is a threaded barrel. It does have an O-ring in there to keep the protector from not walking off. That does work. I haven't had that walk off on me. This is just a standard slightly extended. I think it's 4.9 inches. I think this is like 5 inches, 5.1 with the threaded. So yeah, potato, this is great if you need a can. There's really good reports of this running suppressed. I don't have a can, so, you know, doesn't really matter to me. Let's talk about sights. We have 3-dot tritium night sights. I believe made by Trigicon, but I don't know. There is, so the camera's not gonna pick this up properly, but there is some air between that front and rear. And there's some air between this front and rear too. However, I think this front post is thinner. Yeah, the front post is a little bit thinner. Something about the air on this doesn't really make me feel as good as the air on this. Just, this is very subjective, but the spacing of the sights on the front to rear here is very nice. They're very good sights. They glow bright, excuse me. And these sights to me have always felt a little awkward, the way they kind of like lift off of the slide. It just never for me felt very natural for presentation. But once you have it aligned, they are very good sights. The fiber optic red front is nice, and the blacked out rear is great too. However, I gotta say, I prefer these sights. I have seen a report from someone else that this rear is a proprietary dovetail, and it does look that way. If we see the thickness of width, basically, of that rear sight, you can see that the 92X Performance, the base is way wider than the M9a3. So yeah, well, I think that pretty much covers like all the differences. I'm just gonna talk about what I feel about these guns. So first of all, I think the 92X Performance is like one of the, if not the sexiest handguns ever made. The finish, the contrast, the two-tone, it's beautiful. Okay, it just looks fantastic. Has a good trigger. I like the thumb safety. You know, I'm down with cocked and locked like a 1911, and this feels very, very good too. It has a good amount of resistance. It clicks positively. It's a very nice safety. The double action, I'm typically not a huge fan of double singles. However, the double action pull on this, being as good as it is, it's yeah, it's not bad at all, and the single action on this is phenomenal. This being a real pain in the butt to get different types of holsters for is a huge setback for me, whereas the M9a3 will take a lot of different holsters for the M9 or 92 series. Like I said, just keeping in mind that trigger guard. So all in all, it's really hard to pick one, but I think if I could only have one, I probably would pick the M9a3, just because it makes like a better service weapon, you know, more versatile. And yeah, the weight is really, when I first picked this up, it wasn't as heavy as I thought it was gonna be. This thing's a boat anchor at like 47.6 ounces. So that really kind of, in my opinion, limits its roles, that paired with the holster options. However, if you were running it in competition, this would definitely make the better competition gun than this, because it does shoot softer, okay? And the trigger is lighter, which means that you should be able to break the double action just a little bit faster without drifting off target. And the single action, you'd probably be able to shred it a little bit quicker. The overall break and reset is shorter on this. So yeah, both are great guns. I guess you just have to know which feature set is right for you, and then eventually get both like I did. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.